Look at this bridge. No, take a good look. Although this might look like any regular bridge, you'll quickly realize there's something different. A whole house sits at the middle. This is the story of how a regular woman said no to one of the most powerful governments in the world and got away with it. The incredible story of China's most famous nail house, a woman who made the government build a highway around her home. In the heart of Guangzhou, one of China's most rapidly developing megacities, stands a testament to individual determination that defies all logic. Nestled between the rushing lanes of the newly constructed Haizhuyong Bridge, a tiny one-story house sits like an island in a sea of concrete and steel. This isn't just any ordinary home. It's the residence of Ms. Liang, a woman whose decade-long standoff with the Chinese government has become one of the most remarkable stories of resistance in modern urban development. The genesis of an extraordinary standoff. The story begins in 2010, when the Haizhou district government in Guangzhou announced ambitious plans to construct the Haizhuyong Bridge, a crucial infrastructure project designed to alleviate traffic congestion in the bustling metropolis. The bridge would span across a section of Huandao Road, connecting previously isolated areas and dramatically improving travel times for millions of residents. What should have been a straightforward construction project, however, would become a decade-long saga that captured international attention. The proposed bridge route cut directly through a residential area where 47 households and 7 businesses had made their homes and livelihoods. For most residents, the government's offer of compensation and relocation seemed reasonable. After all, progress often requires sacrifice. One by one, families packed their belongings and moved to new accommodations, accepting the financial packages offered by the authorities. All except one, Ms. Liang. To truly appreciate Ms. Liang's story, one must first understand the concept of nail houses, or dingzihu in Chinese. The term, coined by developers themselves, refers to properties whose owners refuse to move for development projects. The metaphor is striking. Like a nail that cannot be hammered down or extracted, these houses stubbornly remain in place while the world transforms around them. The nail house phenomenon emerged prominently in China during the mid-1990s, coinciding with the country's rapid economic liberalization and unprecedented urban development. As China transformed from a centrally planned economy to a market-oriented one, private property rights began to gain recognition. The 2007 property law marked a watershed moment, granting citizens stronger legal standing to challenge forced evictions and establishing the principle that both public and private properties deserved equal protection. This legal framework provided the foundation for homeowners like Ms. Liang to stand their ground. What might have been impossible during earlier decades of communist rule, when private property ownership was largely abolished, became a legal reality in modern China. The nail house phenomenon thus represents not just individual stubbornness, but a broader awakening of property rights consciousness among Chinese citizens. Ms. Liang, known publicly only by her surname in keeping with Chinese media practices, emerges from news reports as a complex figure, neither the greedy opportunist her critics describe, nor the simple victim her supporters might claim. Her modest 40 square metre, 430 square foot home had been her residence for years before the government's acquisition plans emerged. The single-story dwelling, while unremarkable by most standards, represented something far more valuable than its physical structure. It was her home, her sense of place, and her autonomy. When government officials approached her in 2010 with their initial compensation offer, Ms. Liang found herself facing a decision that would define the next decade of her life. The terms seemed straightforward enough: accept financial compensation and relocate to alternative housing provided by the government. For Ms. Liang, however, the devil was in the details. The government's proposed relocation sites proved problematic. One apartment they offered was located adjacent to a hospital morgue, hardly an appealing prospect for anyone seeking a peaceful home environment. Other options failed to meet her standards for location, quality, or appropriateness. When Ms. Liang requested 4 apartments as compensation, the government countered with an offer of only 2, along with monetary compensation of 1.3 million yuan, approximately $186,500 at the time. She rejected this offer, reportedly seeking 4 apartments and 2 million yuan, $287,000, on the engineering marvel of accommodation. Faced with an immovable resident and mounting pressure to complete the crucial infrastructure project, Guangzhou authorities found themselves in an unprecedented situation. Rather than engage in the heavy-handed tactics that had sometimes characterized earlier development projects, officials made a remarkable decision. They would redesign the bridge to accommodate Ms. Liang's refusal to move. This decision reflected both the changing legal landscape in China and a pragmatic recognition that forced eviction might prove more costly and controversial than architectural adaptation. Engineers were tasked with studying the safety implications of building around Ms. Liang's home, ultimately determining that the project could proceed with her house remaining in place. The construction that followed was nothing short of extraordinary. The Haizhuyong Bridge, originally planned as a conventional overpass, was redesigned to split around Ms. Liang's property. Her home now sits in what can only be described as a concrete canyon, a pit in the middle of a 4-lane highway, with bridge spans soaring overhead on either side. Access to her home is maintained through a specially constructed pathway beneath the bridge, ensuring she can come and go despite being surrounded by rushing traffic. The bridge officially opened to traffic on August 3, 2020, marking the completion of a decade-long construction project that had been fundamentally altered by one woman's determination. The engineering achievement cannot be understated, building a major piece of infrastructure around an occupied building, while ensuring both structural integrity and resident safety, required innovative solutions and meticulous planning. On for international comparisons in similar cases, Ms. Liang's story, while remarkable for its specific circumstances, is part of a broader global phenomenon of development holdouts. Similar situations have occurred in various countries, each reflecting local legal, cultural, and political contexts. In the United States, property holdouts have become something of a cultural icon, from the farmhouse that stands in the middle of Tokyo's Narita Airport to various urban examples where owners have refused to sell to developers. The famous case of Edith Macefield in Seattle, who refused to sell her home to a mall developer, resulted in the commercial complex being built around her house, though the scale was far smaller than Ms. Liang's highway situation. The United Kingdom has seen similar cases, including the famous Stott Hall farm that sits in the middle of the M62 motorway. Interestingly, that case involved geological rather than social factors. The motorway was split around the farm, not because of a stubborn owner, but because the land contained geological anomalies that made it impractical to build upon. In Japan, where property rights are strongly protected and eminent domain is limited, nail house situations have occasionally reached extraordinary proportions. The construction of Narita Airport was famously delayed for decades by farmers who refused to sell their land, resulting in a facility that had to be built around existing properties and access roads. What distinguishes Ms. Liang's case is both its scale and its resolution. While many international examples involve commercial buildings constructed around smaller residential properties, few match the infrastructure scope of a major highway bridge. Moreover, the sustained duration of the dispute over a decade and its peaceful resolution through accommodation rather than forced removal make it unique in the annals of development holdouts. As of 2024, Ms. Liang continues to reside in her unique home, now firmly established as one of Guangzhou's most unusual tourist attractions. Government officials maintain that negotiations remain open, suggesting that the current situation may not be permanent. However, the longer she remains in place, the more established her position becomes, both legally and practically. The tourism economy that has developed around her home provides an unexpected economic dimension to her situation. While probably not her original intention, Ms. Liang has become an important local attraction, drawing visitors who contribute to the broader local economy. This tourism interest may actually strengthen her position by demonstrating the value her presence brings to the area. Future resolution of her situation remains uncertain. The government's continued willingness to negotiate suggests that acceptable compensation arrangements might eventually be reached. However, Ms. Liang's decade of successful resistance has established both legal precedent and personal investment that make her position increasingly secure. The broader implications of her case for Chinese urban development continue to evolve. As other nail house situations arise, Ms. Liang's example provides both inspiration for property owners and guidance for officials seeking to balance individual rights with collective development needs. Ms. Liang's story transcends the particulars of one woman's dispute with local government to become a powerful symbol of broader social, legal, and economic transformations in contemporary China.